What's going on, everybody? Jackass with ApexHead.com, bringing you episode 19 of the F1 2012 I Am No Expert Career Mode series, and for the first time this year we are on American soil here at the Circuit of the Americas, which was added to the calendar for the first time last year. And as you can see here in practice, we have an R&D objective, probably our final one here with Sauber, given that this is the second to last race before the end of the year. And the only objective here is to go 3 laps and not burn off more than 18% of your tires, which is pretty easy. And you can see just how spotty the conditions are. I actually had some problems, especially because I hadn't raced here in a while, but the track was definitely a little bit messy and was not doing me a whole lot of favors. So fortunately, dry conditions here in Q1, and have no idea what to expect from myself in terms of pace with the AI. You can see that Sauber would like to see me finish above 15th. That's probably based on my last result, which was not pretty to say the least. And as mentioned, probably my last R&D objective with Sauber. I noticed that in 2011, you would go through a season with the team and upgrade the car, and then you would change teams, and the following year the car that you had left, the team that you had just left, their car was greatly improved. So I'm curious what Sauber will look like next year, or the Toro Rosso for that matter. Remember, we started this season with Toro Rosso. I'm wondering how they're going to look next year when I move over to Lotus. Let's see if they're running higher than they normally would. So here in Q1, getting out finally, and you can see being swarmed by the AI and really not setting a very good time at all. And down in P11 right away, so going to go back into the garage and going to go ahead and leave on these tires for now since we only did a couple laps, and letting it tick down to just over 5 minutes now, and going to go ahead and try and beat my time to get into Q2, and having a couple of goes at it. You can see here with just over 140 to go in Q1, able to get up into P11. Remember, we only have to be in the top 17 to move on, so with this little time to go, I'm going to go ahead and trust that my time is good enough for now. And I can see Felipe Massa currently running P12. That could have been a problem, but our gamble pays off. And in fact, we are able to make it in at P11, and that's potentially very telling. We'll have to see what kind of time we can set in Q2. But if we get into Q3 at, say, P10 or so, I may just save my tires. That's a debate to make if in fact it goes that way. But if I'm going to qualify around 10th anyway, I might as well save my tires. That's sort of my thinking. And taking a quick look at the tires here, debating between the 80% and the 100%, and I'm going to go ahead and take out the 80. That's pretty degraded, but I know I'm never going to use them again anyway. I might as well burn them up for a lap or two just to see what I can do. And so there you can see setting a time down in P2 behind Felipe Massa. And he's got a very, very good pace over me. Actually, I had a handful of problems with the lap anyway, so now there's no debate. Have to throw on the fresh rubber. And going to go ahead and let it tick down to close to the 5-minute mark. That's sort of my magic time. Like to get in a couple of laps before the session's over. And remember, we have to get into the top 10 here. And again, really curious if I can get into Q3. It's been a long time. You can see after the first hot lap, no go. Not able to improve my position of 17th. So coming around to the end of lap 2. And this time getting into P10 with just over 120 to play. And so sure enough, that time would hold up, beating out Felipe Massa by 1 position. And as I mentioned in Q1, by virtue of the fact that I'm only in 10th spot to get into Q3, I don't think that there's a lot of advantage to taking the car out and burning up the tires. So I'm going to go ahead and let it tick down, just taking a quick look at my tires. And yeah, definitely going to want to have a fresh set for race day. Probably can make up a handful of positions, maybe in turn 1. It's a very wide circuit going up into turn 1, and of course it's got the very sharp hairpin, so you have to be careful. But that'll be my strategy and thinking, and hopefully can stay out a little bit longer. So here we are on race day, and you can see we've got some cloudy skies. I believe the weather forecast is supposed to be clear, but I have seen times where there's a no % chance and it does rain. So team objective finished 7th. Starting grid, all Red Bull front row, except for Mark Webber's on pole position, Schumacher P4. And Grosjean P5, Maldonado P6. And look at this, Felipe Massa and Fernando Alonso running 11 and 12. So Ferrari flirting with the midfield. I hadn't noticed Alonso there. And Nico Rosberg with Mercedes P13. That's a big discrepancy from Schumacher, so not sure what happened to him during his qualifying session. But very, very strange midfield there. Taking a look at our tire and fuel strategy. Going to change our fuel strategy to normal, and we're due to pit for prime tires at the end of lap 6. And I've been running that normal fuel strategy this entire time. Typically gives me between 3 and 5 extra laps of fuel. And I've been using my fuel mix a little differently since India. I've been sort of using it on different parts of the circuit versus lap after lap. And I'm not sure if it makes any difference. If anything, it gives me more to do during the race, depending on how my focus is. So we'll see if that ends up costing me here in Austin. And really have no idea what to expect from the AI. I was pretty impressed with my times in qualifying. Don't typically qualify that well, so maybe the AI is typically a little bit slow here. We'll have to wait and see. So lined up directly behind Raikkonen in the Lotus car, and next to Paul di Resta in the Force India. Let's see what kind of a start we get. And actually a pretty good start. Trying to catch up with the Force India car, not going to happen, but we are coming up to the very hard braking point here at turn 1. There goes Fernando Alonso on the outside, and shifting down and somehow avoiding contact, and there goes Alonso on the inside, and Jean-Eric Vergne, the Toro Rosso, dropping in behind him, now wheel to wheel with our teammate Kobayashi, coming through a very, very tricky turn 3, and corners 4 and 5, very reminiscent of Suzuka, not quite as wide and sweeping, but sort of the same S-sweep feel to them, and trying to stick with Jean-Eric Vergne coming around this first lap, and coming up to a very tricky corner here, turn 8, and then to a very, very difficult blind summit turn 9. It's a very quick little chicane up there, and will catch you off guard, especially early on when you're starting to learn the circuit. So now trying to make a move on the inside of Vergne, and able to cleanly get around him, but now almost wheel to wheel as we cut him off coming up over the curb. And now trying to hunt down Fernando Alonso coming down the very long back straight. You can see that I've got pretty good pace with the AI as of now. Let's see if we can catch Alonso at the end of the straight. Right now up into P9. We want P8. And it's not too early to try and go for it, and able to do so, get in front of Alonso, and Schumacher is off track. We're up into P7, now P6, pulling in front of Grosjean, coming around the very tricky turn 13, and now wheel to wheel with Kimi coming around turn 15, one of the strangest apexes on the calendar, no question about it, and now locked in combat with Kimi coming out of the exit, now wheel to wheel, almost coming to contact there. And coming around these very wide sweeping sets of corners, this is actually 3 corners, 16, 17, and 18, and trying to stick with the Lotus. And this corner in particular, very, very difficult for me to learn. I didn't actually notice for quite a while that the braking signs were black. And that's a big reason why I had a hard time for a while trying to figure out where the heck my braking zone was there. And it's very difficult to see the curb coming up around there. So as you can see, as a result of how slow I am, Kimi able to pull away pretty easily here down the start-finish straight, and after one lap, we're up into P6. And honestly, all things considered, this is a great start. Still being chased down by Fernando Alonso, coming up the hill through turns 3, 4, and 5, and just checking on the pace of Kimi Raikkonen up ahead. Still trying to get that line right. And wondering if I can stick with the Lotus as we're somehow able to get a purple Sector 1 there. Of course, it is early on in the race, but just not the cleanest sector, so pretty surprised. So now skipping ahead to lap 3 and going wide here at turn 11 at the start of the very long straight, and somehow Fernando Alonso not able to get around, but pushing very, very hard, and there he is. And don't forget, the lap 3 is the start of where we can use our DRS, so now getting swarmed. There goes Alonso on the left-hand side, and there goes Grosjean on the right. And both cars able to overtake me easily because I was a sitting duck coming out of that corner, able to blow by him there, and somehow able to regain our grip just in time to get around turn 12. And have to drop it into first gear to catch the car there, but no matter. Back up into P6 as we try and regain our composure and level out. Still maintaining our position. And it looks like Maldonado now has been overtaken by Kimi Raikkonen, so he's now running P5. And I wonder if that will bode well as the race goes on, trying to catch up with him. So now coming around through turn 10 there, here on lap 4, and you can see being chased down by Alonso still, which is really no surprise. And going back to the scene of the crime, still rolling up over the curb, this time not nearly as grievous, but Alonso again right there behind us, turning up our fuel mix and burning our curves, and here he comes on the right-hand side in contact with his front wing. There was no window there for Alonso to get by, and now getting swarmed again by Kobayashi. And I'm not sure why Alonso came through there. There was really no window. So damage to his car, and once again, now wheel-to-wheel coming out of turn 12, but able to stick in front of the Ferrari. So an extremely spirited couple of laps for Alonso. He's very anxious to get around. And granted, his pace is obviously better than mine. As we go wide here at turn 15, and there he goes. And trying to stick with him as we come through turn 16, and now Grosjean has overtaken Kobayashi for P8. So a shuffling of the deck here in the lower top 10 as we try and stick with the Ferrari. There's my favorite corner, and you can see very slow coming through there. And now coming around the final corner on the lap, and thinking that I might have a chance to overtake Alonso at turn 1, but that might be ambitious. As you can see him pulling away here, coming down the start-finish straight, and still running the rich fuel mix. Going to stick with that for now, and just monitor my fuel load, trying to stick with Alonso coming around the bend here, and going a little bit wide, not too bad. but actually pretty happy with my pace with the Ferrari for now. A big problem that I've had throughout the year is basically catching AI once it's gotten around me and getting these corners all wrong, and not only rolling up over the curb but also into the grass, so picking up all kinds of debris, and that's probably just from a sense of desperation as we start to drift a little bit there at turn 8, now going up over the grass again at turn 9, and now all hopes resting on the idea of getting around the corner here and maybe catching Alonso using our DRS. Remember, we do have the fuel mix turned up, plus the DRS, plus some KERS. So activating DRS now, and let's see what we can do. Here we go. And Grosjean, as you can see, have no real threat coming down the long straight, and if we are able to get around Alonso, which it looks like we're going to be able to do easily, that is a huge sign of improvement from the Sauber and my pace in general of just being able to track someone down for, you know, a lap or so and able to get the position back. So that's a positive sign. Now turning down the fuel mix, and tires are starting to get a little slippery now as we skip ahead to lap 6 and upping the fuel mix yet again. Here comes Alonso, and he's going to have plenty of time to overtake, and he's able to get around us on the inside with no problem. Wheel to wheel coming down to the braking point and having to stick on the curb, but once again able to pull back in front of the Ferrari. So Alonso has to be extremely frustrated with how these laps have gone, getting stuck behind me and overtaken as I start to lose the grip coming around turn 14. And that was a near disaster. Now just absolutely babysitting the car, trying to get around so we can get our fresh tires on. And at the moment, Pastor Maldonado running about 3.2 seconds ahead of us. And so that's a positive sign that we're actually sticking with the P5 car. Of course, that's all set to change here as we come into pit, turning down the fuel mix. And thankfully, Alonso has come in behind us. So hopefully the team can get us out before him. As you can see, dropping down the order here to P11, P12, and it looks like we're going to lose a couple more. But there is a car in front of us, yes, back up into P13, and yes, we have beat Alonso out of the pit stops. So that's a positive sign. Looks like no more cars coming, and this is an extremely tricky pit exit. As you can see here, coming up a little bit too fast, just had no idea where the curb was coming up there, and of course running on the cold tires, so don't have much grip at all in these slower sets of tires. And so skipping ahead further in the lap for what feels like take 85 versus Alonso. Here he comes, and he's going to have no problem overtaking on the outside, actually not blowing by me quite as quickly as I would have expected. And getting a little dangerous coming down here. Don't want to come into the back of him. Able to outbrake him, but going wide here, and he's able to swing around on the inside. And Fernando Alonso way too savvy to let that get by him again. Remember, he was able to swing on the inside of us at turn 1 at the start of the race. Some more problems here at turn 14, and that's going to hurt. And hoping that basically like a replica of the last time this happened, I can keep track of Alonso and maybe get him back on the next lap. Tires are getting warmed up now. But we are running on the prime tires, but so is Alonso. So no real advantage there coming around turn 19. And again, it's always a wild card for me. Typically go wide. If nothing else, I slow down a great deal. And it gives the AI a chance to catch up with me. So turning the fuel mix back up here at the start of lap 8. And let's see how many cars we can overtake. Looks like a pretty good chain. And up into P10. And it looks like we're going to be competing with Grosjean coming out of the pit lane. And here he comes swinging around turn 1 and able to come out wheel to wheel with him. Let's see if we can get our foot down and get around him. Yes, we are, barely. Remember, he's on the cold tires now, so have a little bit of an advantage coming around there, so just in time to snag P8. But the bad news is Alonso is pulling away more and more here as we're able to trim off some time, but don't forget that's from our pit stop lap, so no real surprises. So now skipping ahead at the start of lap 9, and it looks like Nico Rosberg, he may have gone into pit, I'm not exactly sure, but there he is now up into P7. So it looks like Alonso was able to overtake him. I'm not sure if maybe Rosberg had gone into pit, not sure what happened, but no matter. As you can see, not really able to make any kind of a dent, even though we came up on him there coming around turn 1. And now having problems coming back onto the long straight, and there's Michael Schumacher of the other Mercedes. Remember, he had an off earlier in the race, so he's trying to make up some ground, and here he comes on the outside. And let's see if he's got the pace, kind of slow right now. There he goes. And want to avoid the back of contact with him, cutting on the inside, similar to our duel with Alonso, but this time able to catch the car before it's too late and get back in front of the Mercedes for now as we drift a little bit there at turn 13, and there's turn 14 where I've had 2 problems with losing the car there, having some wheel spin, and one of those instances I think was just tire wear, but the first time was basically just accelerating a little bit too fast before I got the car leveled out. but able to stay ahead of Michael Schumacher for now, who I've had a number of memorable duels with throughout the season. It's been a lot of fun racing with him. Even though he had no real success in Mercedes, I'll miss him in next year's game. And you can see cutting off the inside of the last turn there, and Schumacher very, very keen to stick with me. And he's going to give me trouble here at the start-finish straight. Here he comes, turning up the fuel mix. Doesn't look like he's going to have a chance to get around, falling back now. And that's the first time that the AI has caught up with me coming around the start-finish straight, so that's something to be wary of here with about 4 laps to go. So now skipping ahead to lap 12 and going a little bit wide here at turn 8. Trying to get our composure back, and here comes Schumacher on the inside. He's able to overtake us. We had a problem rolling up over the curb, and Schumacher able to exploit, but we've got pretty good pace. Should be able to pull back in front of him as long as we don't make any mistakes, and you can see being very ginger with my line coming around there, afraid of going off. But we're not out of the woods yet. Schumacher, plenty of chance to use his DRS to get around us, and here he comes. And we are well out of curves, so going to have to fend off Schumacher with sheer pace, and it looks like we're able to do so for now, but completely missing our braking point here at turn 12, and rolling well off the track, but somehow Schumacher not able to get around yet, or is he? No, Kobayashi's overtaken P9, so Schumacher, who had the off there earlier on in the race, something happened to him there, not sure what, but Kobayashi able to exploit the fact that him and I were dueling coming down to that hard braking zone and able to overtake, and now Sauber's lined up for P8 and P9. So now skipping ahead to lap 13, still being chased down by our teammate, and chased down being the operative phrase here, is Kobayashi going to have a go here. And once again, like Alonso, coming on the inside when there's not a very large window, he's able to get around us anyway, and here comes Grosjean on the right-hand side. And able to get back in front of the Lotus and Kobayashi as long as we don't go wide here. No, we do not. You can see a couple of cars bunching up behind. But somehow able to fend off Kobayashi. So I'm not exactly sure why the AI was trying to overtake with such a small window there. But no matter, able to finish the race in P8, which is 1 position short of our team objective. So a disappointment for me. But honestly, given that I haven't raced on this circuit much at all, and starting out where I did, P10, gained a couple of positions, can't really complain. Taking a look at the results, Sebastian Vettel able to win the race, and Nico Rosberg able to get up into P7, Jenson Button rounding out the top 10, and looking at the bottom of the grid, you can see Daniel Ricciardo must have had some kind of spin or major problems finishing last. So, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. We are down to 1 race in Brazil, which will be the final race and video for my F1 2012 series. I do have the Season Challenge series that I posted quite a long time ago if you're interested in more races, but don't plan on continuing the series following this season. Honestly, every amount of time that I've spent in this game I pretty much put online, so I'm anxious to just kind of get my hands on it and play through it at my own pace and not really worry about the stress of this. But I will probably post F1 videos off and on. They'll just be single races and things of that nature, similar to what I do with Forza 4 right now. And basically we'll probably focus most of my attention on my Grid series, which is just going to be transitioning over to Grid 2 from Grid 1. And if you haven't had a chance to check that out, feel free to do so on my channel. It seems to be pretty popular with the subscribers. I just posted a marathon 24-minute long Le Mans special episode, which is episode 10, so check that out if you have time. And until then, going to leave you with a handful of race highlights. Hope you'll join me for the finale at Brazil. No opportunity to win the World Drivers' Championship, but Brazil's my second favorite track on the calendar behind Spa, so I'll hope to see you there. Thanks again, everybody. See you soon.